Caroline Whitmore sees an older woman walking toward first class and assumes entitlement. Just another rule breaker to shut down. But what she doesn't know, that woman is Meredith Winslow, the founder of Skyline Airlines and the architect of everything Caroline claims to protect. Stick around, because when the cameras roll and Skyline shame ignites, Caroline's polished wings won't symbolize authority. They'll mark her fall. Justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it taps forward on a maple cane and brings the whole terminal to a standstill. Where are you watching from, and what's the time there? Let us know in the comments below. Subscribe to join our community. The fluorescent lights of Gate A7 cast harsh shadows across Caroline Whitmore's perfectly pressed Skyline Airlines uniform as she watched the elderly woman approach. Something about the woman's confident stride, despite her maple wood cane, made Caroline's jaw clench. Caroline narrowed her eyes. Who does she think she is? Walking like she owns the place? Caroline Whitmore straightened her name tag, relishing the authority it granted her. 28 years old and already senior flight attendant, she hadn't climbed the ranks by letting people break protocol. The old woman's designer handbag screamed money, but Carolyn had seen plenty of wealthy passengers try to sneak their way into first class. "Excuse me," Caroline Whitmore called out, her voice carrying across the terminal. "First-class boarding hasn't begun yet. You'll need to wait with the other passengers." She gestured dismissively toward the growing crowd in the general boarding area. The elderly woman continued forward, her cane tapping steadily against the floor. The sound grated on Caroline's nerves. Tap, 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 each step a challenge to her authority. "I said stop right there!" Caroline Whitmore strode forward, positioning herself directly in the woman's path. Phones emerged from the crowd, their cameras pointed toward the confrontation. Perfect. Let them record. She'd show everyone how to handle entitled passengers. "This cane," Caroline announced loudly, reaching for the polished maple wood, "looks more like a fashion accessory than a medical necessity. We'll need to verify your need for pre-boarding." Her fingers wrapped around the smooth wood, yanking it from the woman's grasp. The elderly woman stumbled slightly but maintained her dignity. Her eyes, sharp despite her age, locked onto Caroline's face. Something in that steady gaze made Caroline's stomach twist, but she pushed the feeling aside. "Do you know who I am?" the woman asked quietly. Caroline Whitmore laughed, the sound echoing through the terminal. "Oh, the classic, 'Do you know who I am' routine. I've heard it all before." She twirled the cane theatrically. The tip of the cane struck the floor with a hollow clack, an unintentional drum roll to her downfall. "Next, you'll tell me you own the airline." A man in a crisp suit stepped forward from the crowd. "Ms. Whitmore, that's Meredith Winslow, the founder of Skyline Airlines." The cane nearly slipped from Caroline's fingers. The terminal fell silent except for the buzz of phones transmitting her humiliation worldwide. Skyline. Shame flashed on a nearby passenger's screen, already trending. Caroline's throat went dry as she watched her carefully constructed authority crumble. In her mind, she heard her mother's words from years ago. "Power without compassion is like a plane without wings, bound to crash." Here, at Gate A7, Caroline Whitmore's empire of control began its descent. Type "respect" if you've ever witnessed someone abuse their power, appeared on screens across the terminal as Caroline's world tilted on its axis. Clutching her silver wings pin, her symbol of authority, Caroline felt the metal edges dig into her palm. The same pin she'd polished obsessively before every shift, believing it made her untouchable. Now, it felt like it was burning her skin. The question hung in the air like suspended turbulence. How far would Caroline Whitmore fall before this storm was over? Have you ever held power so tightly that you forgot its purpose? Caroline wondered, her perfectly crafted world beginning to spiral. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every second of her unraveling certainty. Flight attendant Caroline Whitmore strides through Skyline Airlines' pristine terminal, her perfectly pressed uniform a shield of imagined authority. The morning light streams through the vast windows, catching on her polished name badge, her talisman of power. Each click of her heels against the marble floor reinforces her sense of dominion over this domain. She remembers her mentor, senior attendant Victoria Pierce, who'd taught her the unspoken hierarchy of the skies 15 years ago. Some passengers, Victoria had whispered during training, need to be reminded of their place. Carolyn had absorbed every word, letting it feed her growing sense of superiority. The security cameras whir overhead, their presence barely registering in her consciousness anymore. Why should they? She's untouchable here. The morning's confrontation with that elderly woman, that Meredith Winslow, still burns satisfyingly in her mind. But something nags at her, a subtle discomfort she can't quite place. Her phone buzzes. A notification from the airline's internal messaging system catches her eye. Review of incident number 2847. Priority. Carolyn's fingers tremble slightly as she opens it. More complaints surfacing. 3 last month, 2 the month before. All elderly passengers. All citing similar treatment. Recent studies flash through her mind. Articles she'd dismissed about ageism in the airline industry, about how subtle biases creep into service interactions. Dr. Harrison's research at Aviation Quarterly had specifically highlighted how power dynamics in airports often led to discriminatory behavior. But that's not me, she whispers to herself, though the words feel hollow. She passes the employee break room, catching fragments of hushed conversations. Did you see the video? Can't believe she didn't recognize. The words die as she enters, replaced by pointed silence. Her colleagues, once eager to share her table, suddenly find urgent reasons to leave. Caroline's hand moves to her badge, thumb tracing its edges. The same gesture that once brought comfort now feels like touching a burning coal. She thinks back to her first day, the pride she'd felt in earning this position. Had that pride morphed into something darker without her noticing? The terminal's massive windows, usually a source of light, now feel like magnifying glasses, focusing uncomfortable scrutiny on her every move. A bead of sweat traced her temple. The crowd's eyes became courtroom glares. Her phone buzzes again. Another complaint notification. Then another. The timestamp on these goes back months, years. Type, "Wake up if you've ever realized you've become what you once fought against," flashes through her mind. An imaginary social media prompt that cuts too close to home. A memory surfaces. Her grandmother, struggling with airline staff a decade ago, while Caroline watched silently from behind her newly minted badge. She'd promised herself she'd never be like those staff members. When had that promise broken? Security footage from the morning's incident plays on her phone. Someone's already uploaded it internally. The angle is perfect, capturing every moment of her interaction with Meredith Winslow. But watching it now, Caroline barely recognizes herself in that imperious figure, that voice dripping with condescension. Her badge feels heavier with each step. The morning's confidence crumbles like ash in her mouth as she realizes this isn't an isolated incident. It's a pattern. Her pattern. A pattern that might have finally caught up with her. The marble floors that once echoed her authority now amplify her growing uncertainty. Each step feels less certain than the last, as the weight of her actions, accumulated over years of unchecked behavior, begins to settle on her shoulders. The terminal's fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows as Carolyn Whitmore marches toward the executive lounge, her heels clicking against the polished floor with diminishing confidence. Each step feels heavier than the last, as notifications continue flooding her phone. The viral video of her confrontation with Meredith Winslow has exploded across social media. Whitmore Gate is trending, and her stomach churns as she watches the view count climb past 100,000. "How was I supposed to know?" she mutters, clutching her employee badge like a shield. The same badge that had made her feel so powerful just hours ago now seems to mock her. Caroline pauses at a window, catching her reflection. Her pristine uniform suddenly feels like a costume she doesn't deserve to wear. Her phone buzzes again. This time it's a message from corporate HR requesting her immediate presence. The words blur before her eyes as panic sets in. Through the terminal's glass walls, she spots groups of passengers pointing at her, phones raised. Their whispers carry like poison. That's her, the one who humiliated Meredith Winslow. Meredith Winslow. The name that will haunt her career. Carolyn's hands shake as she pulls up the airline's history page, scrolling frantically through 4 decades of achievements under Winslow's leadership. Awards for innovation in passenger care. Recognition for creating the industry's first comprehensive accessibility program. The very protocols Caroline had so arrogantly ignored. "Ms. Whitmore?" A junior flight attendant approaches, then quickly steps back at Caroline's sharp glare. "The crew. We've all seen the video. They're saying you should prepare for disciplinary action." Caroline's chest tightens. She watches as crew members who had laughed at her jokes this morning now hurry past, avoiding eye contact. The isolation feels suffocating. Her phone keeps buzzing. CNN wants a statement. Local news vans are gathering outside the terminal. In the restroom mirror, Carolyn notices her perfect makeup beginning to crack. "I was just following procedure," she whispers to her reflection, but the words sound hollow now. The memory of Meredith Winslow's quiet dignity in the face of her cruelty replays in her mind. The gentle tap of that cane. The wisdom in those eyes. A notification catches her attention. Skyline Airlines' official statement is trending. "We are aware of the incident involving one of our flight attendants and our founder, Meredith Winslow. This behavior does not reflect our values." Carolyn can't read further as tears blur her vision. She clutches the sink, remembering her own words. "Rules are rules, ma'am. No exceptions." The irony crushes her. She had broken the most fundamental rule of all: human dignity. Through the terminal's massive windows, the sun begins to set, casting long shadows across the gates, where just hours ago, Caroline had felt invincible. Now each passing minute brings new consequences. Crew schedules are being revised. Her name disappeared from tomorrow's roster. Her supervisor isn't returning her calls. "Have you seen what they're saying online?" Carolyn overhears a passenger ask. "Apparently she's been power tripping like this for months. Other incidents are coming out." Carolyn's blood runs cold. Past confrontations with passengers flash through her mind. How many others had she humiliated, thinking her uniform made her untouchable? How many times had she mistaken cruelty for authority? The executive lounge doors open, and Caroline glimpses Meredith Winslow inside, surrounded by board members. The tap of that cane echoes through the terminal. Steady, dignified, a reminder of the wisdom Caroline had dismissed. Type, consequences, if you've ever watched someone's arrogance lead to their downfall. Her phone buzzes one final time, a message from the airline's CEO. My office, tomorrow morning. Carolyn Whitmore, who started her day enforcing rules, ends it facing the consequences of breaking the most important one of all, humanity itself. Meredith Winslow's fingers tightened around the polished mahogany cane that had supported her through decades of building Skyline Airlines. The sleek boardroom, with its panoramic views of the runway she'd commissioned 30 years ago, now felt like a courtroom. Her weathered hands, testament to years of hard work, trembled slightly as notifications continued buzzing through the room. At Winslow Wisdom was trending, with the morning's humiliation at Gate B7 gaining millions of views. Did you think I was just another disposable passenger? Meredith Winslow's voice carried the weight of half a century's experience. She watched Caroline shift uncomfortably, the flight attendant's pristine uniform now a stark contrast to her crumbling composure. The same uniform Meredith had personally designed in 1985, choosing navy blue to represent trust and reliability. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, a Skyline aircraft took off, its engines roaring, a sound that had once filled Meredith with pride. Now it served as a backdrop to this moment of reckoning. When I started Skyline, Meredith continued, her cane tapping gently against the polished floor, I was younger than you. They said a woman couldn't run an airline, called me that stubborn girl with impossible dreams. Caroline's eyes widened as Meredith pulled out her original flight attendant wings from 1973, tarnished but still gleaming. I worked every position, from baggage handler to flight attendant, before taking the helm. That's why your words this morning cut deep, not because they were aimed at me, but because they betrayed everything Skyline stands for. The room fell silent, except for the constant buzz of phones. The viral video of Caroline's morning outburst played on a nearby screen, muted but damning. Meredith watched her younger self being berated, labeled too slow and in the way, the footage already reaching 10 million views. Type dignity if you believe everyone deserves respect, scrolled across the bottom of news coverage as #WinslowWisdom continued trending. Meredith moved closer, her cane echoing against the marble floor. You saw gray hair and a cane and decided my worth. But look around you. She gestured to the airline's logo, her signature incorporated into its design. Every seat, every uniform, every protocol was crafted with one belief, that every person who steps into our airports carries dreams worth protecting. Caroline's professional facade cracked as recognition dawned. The same woman she'd humiliated owned the wings on her chest. Tears welled in her eyes as Meredith reached into her bag, withdrawing a folder. These are complaints, Meredith said softly, from other passengers, all citing similar treatment, all ignored because they didn't trend on social media, all overlooked because they weren't the founder in disguise. A notification chimed. CNN was running the story. Airline founder transforms viral humiliation into teaching moment, the headline read. But this isn't about punishment, Meredith continued, her voice steady. It's about transformation. The same way a young woman's impossible dream became Skyline Airlines. She placed her original wings on the table. You have a choice now. Will you let this viral moment define you, or will it refine you? Outside, another plane took off, its shadow crossing the boardroom briefly. Meredith watched Caroline reach for the wings with trembling fingers, understanding finally replacing fear in her eyes. Share this moment if you believe in second chances, appeared on screens across the country as Meredith Winslow's story of dignity and redemption captured hearts worldwide. The air conditioning hummed steadily as Meredith delivered her final words, words that would soon be quoted across every platform. True service begins with seeing the humanity in everyone, even in those moments when others fail to see yours. Caroline stood, tears streaming freely now. "I understand now," she whispered, "and I want to learn. To really learn." Meredith Winslow nodded, her cane sturdy beneath her palm. In the reflection of the boardroom windows, she saw not just herself and a humbled flight attendant, but the future of Skyline Airlines, one where dignity would never be a trending hashtag, but a constant truth. Flight attendant Caroline Whitmore's hands tremble as she smooths her once pristine uniform, now a symbol of her shattered pride. The same terminal where she had wielded her authority like a weapon 24 hours ago now feels different, humbling. The morning light streaming through the vast windows seems to mock the darkness that had lived in her heart. Her company badge, which she'd once polished obsessively before each shift, catches the sunlight. Caroline's fingers trace its edges, remembering how she'd used it to intimidate countless passengers, including Meredith Winslow. Now it feels heavy with the weight of her regret. The security cameras that had captured her cruel display of power now witness something else entirely. Caroline watches as Skyline. Lesson continues trending on every screen in the terminal, her own face becoming the unwitting symbol of workplace accountability gone viral. A nearby passenger scrolls through the millions of views, comments, and shares. "Your actions define your legacy," one comment reads, making Caroline's throat tighten. "Ms. Winslow!" Caroline calls out, her voice carrying across the terminal, where just yesterday she'd shouted very different words. The elderly woman turns, leaning on her cane, dignity emanating from her like a quiet force. Caroline feels the eyes of fellow flight attendants, passengers, and social media live streamers all fixed upon this moment. "I spent 15 years building walls of superiority," Caroline admits, her voice cracking. "Yesterday, I didn't just humiliate you, I betrayed everything air travel should represent: dignity, respect, connection." Her confession echoes through the terminal's hushed atmosphere, every word captured for posterity. The badge on her chest feels like it's burning now. With trembling fingers, Caroline unpins it, holding it out. "I don't deserve to wear this anymore." But Meredith doesn't take it. "Keep it," Meredith responds, her voice gentle yet firm. "Let it remind you that true authority comes from lifting others up, not pushing them down." The terminal's ambient announcements seem to pause, as if nature itself is witnessing this transformation. Caroline's eyes fill with tears as she realizes the profound truth. Her power had always been an illusion, but her potential for change is real. Type 1, if this moment of humility moves you. Across every screen in the terminal, the hashtag Skyline lesson continues to soar, carrying Caroline's story of accountability and transformation. News channels are already picking up the story. Flight attendants' journey from power to purpose. "Remember," Meredith says, her words cutting through Caroline's shame, "today wasn't about punishment. It was about growth." Caroline Whitmore nods, understanding finally washing over her like a cleansing rain. She places her badge in a display case near the terminal's entrance, not as a symbol of surrender, but as a testament to transformation. Beneath it, she places a small placard. "Power without compassion is no power at all." The morning flights resume their announcements, But Caroline stands changed. Her uniform, once armor for her arrogance, now feels like a responsibility. She turns to face the cameras one last time, not as the villain of a viral video, but as someone willing to learn, grow, and change. Share this story if you believe in the power of transformation. Skyline. Lesson. In the end, Caroline Whitmore realizes that true authority isn't measured in the power to deny or demean, but in the courage to admit when you're wrong and the strength to become better. As she watches Meredith Winslow board her flight home, Caroline understands that sometimes the greatest lessons come from our darkest moments, and that redemption begins with a single moment of truth. The terminal's morning light catches her tears as they fall, each one carrying away a piece of who she used to be, making space for who she's becoming. The viral story of her transformation will continue to circulate, but the real change, the one that matters most, has already taken place in her heart.